We're now going to make a dramatic shift in our topics of conversation. We're going to move away from discussing sort of broad general marketing concepts like segmentation or the consumer buying process or ethics in marketing, and we're really going to spend essentially the rest of the semester delving into more deeper, more meaningful discussions about the 4 Ps of marketing. So basically, the rest of the semester, we're going to focus on those 4 Ps, and we're going to start today by talking about the first P, product. What is a product? A product, we typically we use the word product interchangeably, but in truth, there's a difference between products and services. A product includes anything that's offered to the market for attention. And typically, a product is tangible. It's a pair of shoes. It's a hamburger. It is a car, a television, a cell phone. It's a physical product that you can hold and touch and see. And that's typically what we think of when we think of products. But marketing also applies to other kinds of products, including services. Services are those intangible activities or benefits or satisfactions that don't end up resulting in the ownership of something. It's more a process that you go through. So when you go get a massage or get a haircut or go to the bank and get some services there, or avail yourself of the services of an accountant or a lawyer, those are they're called services, but we're going to consider them products for the purposes of our discussion about that first P in the 4 Ps of marketing. Products are differentiated based on the experiences that we go through in terms of acquiring them and using them. And we tend to evaluate products based on 3 broad levels. The core customer value. What is the actual product? What are the features of that product? The various bells and whistles, so to speak, that are included in the product. How is the product designed? What packaging and how does the packaging of the product provide us with value? And believe it or not, packaging can provide value. What is the overall quality level? And what is the brand name? Because we know brand names provide value to us as well. Other ways we can evaluate products, including the delivery or how we acquire the product, and what kind of financial arrangements can we make in terms of paying for the product. We can derive value from after-sale service and things like warranty, product support, and making adjustments to the product to tailor to our very specific needs. There are 2 broad classifications of products and services, and we kind of talked about these things a little bit already. We talked about consumers and the kinds of products that they purchase, and we also have industrial or business-related products. For the consumer type of products, we have convenience products, products that we buy on a regular basis. They're very low risk. We spend very little time in the buyer decision-making process on buying these types of convenience goods. These are the things we pick up on a daily or weekly basis as part of our everyday routine. Consumers also have shopping products, products that you spend a little bit more time purchasing. You may do a little bit more or spend a little bit more time in the gathering of information and the evaluating the criteria stage of the process. These are things like buying a pair of shoes, maybe purchasing a new cell phone, things that we don't necessarily buy on a daily or weekly basis, but we do buy on a fairly regular basis. They're certainly not products that are unfamiliar to us. Specialty products are those products we don't purchase very frequently, maybe once in a lifetime. We spend actually a considerable amount of time in the various stages of the consumer buying process for these kinds of products because there's a lot more at stake. When you buy a house or buy a new vehicle or that trip of a lifetime, those big ticket items, we tend to seek out more information, more guidance, those sorts of things. And then there's actually unsought products, products that we don't typically like to shop for, that the sellers of these products actually have to pursue us quite aggressively. Things like insurance, um, uh, uh, funeral arrangements, those sorts of things. Things we don't typically seek out or enjoy purchasing, but we need to buy because we're responsible adults. When it comes to industrial products, you've got the materials and parts that go into the various goods and services that your business might use to make the products that they sell. Capital items like the factory and equipment you use to make those goods and services, and the supplies and services that would go into, say, the office, the paper clips you purchase, and the paper for the fax machine, and the computers that your employees work on, the accountant that you hire to keep your books, that sort of thing. So those are the different types of products and service classifications. We're going to talk now about new product development. One of the ways you can provide value to your customers through the products, and remember, if you go back to the 4Ps of marketing, 4Ps of marketing are the ways in which a company can provide value to their consumers through the product, the price, the place, and promotion. So one of the ways that a company can provide value to their customers through products is by offering them new products to the marketplace that enhance or somehow uh, make people's lives a little bit better. So when one of the ways you can provide value is to acquire new products, buy up companies that already have products in the marketplace, and you can grow your business that way, or you can actually introduce new products to the marketplace. This could include the development of brand new original products, but also it could include modifications or just new brands of products. New product innovation is very expensive and very, very risky. And so we're going to talk about the process in a minute. Almost all of new products fail or underperform the expectations of the company. Upwards of 80% of new products that are introduced to the marketplace in North America fail. In some countries like Japan, well over 90% of new products that are introduced to the marketplace fail. So it's really important to understand that. We're going to go into the new product development process in a minute, but we want to take a quick look at the product life cycle. You may have heard that terminology before. We've used it a couple of times already in the course when we were talking about segmentation and when we were talking about factors that influence the types of things consumers buy. But all products go through a life cycle where in the very beginning it's only innovators who purchase the product, and then it's the early adapters, and then you get to that big hump in the middle of the chart where they're the early majorities and the late majorities, and then you have the laggards. This is very common and follows very typically, especially when it comes to technology, the life cycle of products in that product category. So if we take a look at the new product development process, this is a great exam question. So basically walk me through the steps of the new product development process. The first step is to come up with ideas. And you can look anywhere for ideas. You can look inside your organization to the people who are charged with coming up with new ideas, but also other employees who might have insights into what might be a great new product to introduce to the marketplace. You can also look outside the organization. You can talk to your customers, to your suppliers, to your retailers, to any number of or individuals outside the organization as a source of ideas that might represent a potential new product that you might want to pursue. Companies like 3M, which is a famous, huge, multi-billion-dollar global company, they have as part of their organization's mandate that every single employee in the organization is responsible for coming up with new product ideas. And I'm not sure the exact number, but I think roughly 30% of annual sales need to come from products that have been developed in the last couple of years. So they really emphasize generating new product ideas in that organization. And several decades ago, there was a gentleman who worked in the 3M company, and he worked in particular in the adhesive or glue department of this huge, huge, huge company. And he also, in his spare time, sang in the church choir. And he noticed that on Sundays, when he was singing in the church choir, he was often frustrated because he was losing his page in the hymn book. And so he didn't want to fold down or dog ear the page because he felt that was destroying the hymn book, and he found if he stuck loose pieces of paper in like bookmarks, I guess, in the book, they often fell out, and he ended up losing his place regardless. And then he remembered that in his department they had created a kind of glue that was sort of sticky and tacky, but didn't stick all that well. And then it didn't really have a use for that particular product, and so they kind of just put that adhesive that they developed on a shelf and never really thought about it. And so what he did was he thought, well, if I apply a little bit of that adhesive to a little square of paper, I can stick it in the hymn book. It'll stay because the glue is tacky enough that it will stick to the paper in the book, but it's not tacky enough that whenever I'm done, when the church service is over, I can easily peel that piece of paper that I glued on there off, and it doesn't cause any damage to the hymn book. And that gentleman invented Post-it notes. And I'm sure all of you know what Post-it notes are. But he was part of the 3M culture and organization, and as part of his job, he was constantly assigned to look for new product ideas. In that case, it was one that made that company billions and billions of dollars. So once you have a list of potential ideas that might be interesting, the next stage of the new product development process is to actually screen those ideas. Which of these ideas actually are worth pursuing a little bit further, and which ones just don't fit the organization's capabilities, don't fit the organization's goals and objectives. Maybe the technology doesn't actually exist to make this kind of product right now. And so you take that long list of product ideas and you whittle it down, screening, pulling out the good ideas or the ideas that you want to pursue a little bit further, and discarding or putting in the parking lot those ideas that don't really represent a good fit for the organization right now. Once you've narrowed down that list to a more manageable number, the next phase is the concept development and testing. Can you actually make a product that does what it is you want it to do? Is the technology available? Can you actually do it? And so you start working with your engineers and your research and development people, and you try to make your first prototypes of the product to see, hey, can we actually make this thing? Once you have a prototype, then you may start thinking about your marketing strategy. Okay, is this something that really there's a market for it? If there's a market for it, who is the market for it? How are we going to clearly define those 4 P's for this new product idea? What exactly is the product going to look like and do? What is the price point that we think we can make and sell this product for? How are we going to get this product into the hands of consumers, and how are we going to promote it? So starting to develop that marketing strategy. The next stage is the business analysis stage, and this is a critical stage in the new product development process because this is the stage where you're starting to take a look at the numbers. You're trying to determine whether or not you can make a solid business case for moving this particular product idea forward. This stage is critical because you're going to make a key decision after this stage whether you're going to move forward with this product or not. And if you move forward, now is the time when the big heavy expenses start coming into play. So you want to make sure you do your business analysis really, really well. Consider all of the different numbers that are important to consider. How much is it going to cost to make this product? What do you think you can sell it for? What's the size of the market? What's the return on investment? Those sorts of things. Because if the numbers don't add up, now is the time to get out of this business area and move on to something else. You do not want to continue to pursue this business opportunity or this new product idea if the numbers just don't pan out in the business analysis step of the new product development process. So after you do your business analysis, then you actually start developing the actual ability to produce the product. You build the factories, you start buying the equipment, you start working with suppliers to get the components or the ingredients for your product. So you're spending a lot of money. The product may still be in the development phase in the sense that you're still tweaking it, making some final adjustments, but for the most part, the product is in its close to final stage, the way customers are going to see it in the marketplace, but you could still make some minor changes at this stage. Then once you have a real prototype, a marketable prototype, you send it out and test it in the marketplace. You could have focus groups, you could pilot it in particular markets. In markets, you get some market feedback from your potential customers so that you can make some final adjustments to the product so you make sure you get it exactly right. And then the last stage is commercialization, where you launch the product into the marketplace, targeting your target audience, your target market, and try to build that product into a moneymaker for your company. So we already talked about some of these things. So we looked at all of those things already. This again is the product life cycle, but it maps not only product sales in terms of volume and revenue, but it takes a look at the profitability. And you'll notice that you're losing money in the product development stage, and usually in the introduction stage as well. You may be selling products, you may be bringing in revenue, but your costs are way, way more than the actual revenue that you're bringing in. So you're experiencing a loss, and only once you get to the growth and maturity stage do you actually end up making money and being profitable for your business. So this little chart is actually interesting, and I do want you to take a look at it. This is the various kinds of things you want to think about at the various stages of the product life cycle. So what are the kinds of marketing characteristics and strategies that you want to think about during the introduction stage, which are very different than in the growth stage versus the maturity stage and the decline stage. The kinds of things that you do from a marketing perspective and the costs of the things that you do actually differ very significantly based on the stage of the product life cycle that you happen to be in. Where you tend to spend the most money is in the introduction and growth stage. It's very, very expensive to introduce a new product into the marketplace. Once the products hit the maturity stage, you're still spending a good amount of money, but you're also bringing in a good amount of money. And you can be a little bit more strategic in how you're spending your money. And then, of course, in the decline stage, you're actually pulling back, spending less and less money on the product. But early on in the introduction and growth stage, you're spending an awful lot of money on various aspects of the marketing mix. You saw earlier the typical curve that most products in the product life cycle tend to go through, but there are slightly different curves for products that are stylish, fashionable, or faddish. So if you've got a product that is a fad, you're going to see a very, very quick spike in sales, and you're going to also see a very, very quick decline. Things like those fidget spinners. They came out of nowhere, and sales were huge, but in another couple of months, we're probably not going to see that product in the way that we've seen it over the past several months, because it's really just a fad. So not all products follow that typical sort of curve up, a big hump, and then curve down format. If a product is more style-based or more fashion or fad-based or more trendy, they can have slightly different looks to the curve of the product life cycle.